really strong interest on players doing work on the ground in Vermont right now. That Hagen Markets, Union Extension, that these conversations are taking place well beyond this building, and there's good stuff going on.
Can I ask a question on that?
Well, hang on,
I have a question. Representative there is, I went to the Real Organic Project symposium about a week ago in Dartmouth, and the aquaponic, hydroponic issues, are you aware of that at all? They're now, considered organic because legislation had changed the original organic legislation that, they had set up. And that doesn't sequester any carbon at all when you have aquaponics and hydroponics. And soil health has nothing to do with them. I mean, they're basic factories that run water through and they grow the plants. Is that an issue in Washington right now at all?
Respecting the process, I'd look to the facilitator meeting. I'd be happy to answer your question, but just respecting the town meeting
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Tom, I was going to raise a point of order. That isn't germane to the motion exactly, but we can discuss it this afternoon when we're doing open space. I do want to let everybody know that the town meeting is scheduled from 10 to 12, and then we're going to take a lunch break. And then from 1 to 3, we're going to be doing what we call open space format meeting, where we could, for example, draft the 2-page resolution that Brian will need to introduce to the legislature, if that is of interest. We can discuss topics that are particularly interesting to all of you, because all of you help us set the agenda for that section of the meeting. So hydroponics and aquaponics and organics could be a topic of that discussion then, for sure. All right, back to the motion, which was, thank you too, by the way, to our fellow representatives. Back to the motion, which was two parts. One, and maybe the clerk would like to read what she has written down as our motion. We're trying to do this like a town meeting.
The resolution so the meeting to endorse the federal resolution was read out. Where was that?
That's one
Yeah,
of
the first part. And the second part, to write a 2-page resolution that would be Vermont's version of a reading bill.
So the motion on the floor is to direct the state legislature to endorse the federal resolution, that's House Resolution 109, and I think it has another number in the Senate, for a Green New Deal, and to encourage the Vermont State Legislature to develop a Green New Deal for the state of Vermont. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Yes, Elizabeth.
So I greatly appreciate the huge importance of carbon sequestering that our agricultural community can offer and will shoulder. The largest carbon emitter, to my understanding, in Vermont is transportation. And one of the things that we really have to focus on, and I hope we put in the 2-pager, is to really figure out how to transition to an integrated fixed route between populations, between cities, and dynamic route within towns. I've taken a map of Vermont and started to look at what we have for fixed route and how we can use, instead of going horizontally from gas to electric single occupancy vehicles, kind of jumping over and taking an evolutionary leap and having us start to invest in multi-occupancy electric vehicles that can service pockets, denser pockets around the state. Obviously, we have a lot of rural areas, but we also have a lot of populated areas that this would be very suited toward. And the statistics are from UC Davis that using multi-occupancy electric vehicles can reduce the transportation carbon output by 80%. So I think we need to look at that too.
Okay, that would be on the Vermont side of the resolution. So, great. Other discussion? And I do want to invite anybody new in the room on this question. If you have something to say, you're more than welcome. And come sit up here. All right.
Yes, Lee.
I had a question, if that's all right. So I was just wondering if for those who said worries that this was not transformational enough, if in the resolution that we would be proposing to the legislature, if we were to state in that we think that this is a start, but there needs to be going beyond that and really needing to stress that issues of equity and justice is the heart of that, if that were to be as part of the resolution to the state legislature, would that address some of those concerns for people? That's just something I'm wondering.
Okay. I'll turn the floor over to Carol.
I think I appreciate you hearing me, and that begins it, yes. It's a can of worms, and it's going to be a long process, but if they feel like everybody's buying into this, there's a lot in here that will be used, in spite of the idealistic kinds of paragraphs, will be used to walk right over that, to keep the systems going. So, you know, saying that it's only a start at least keeps your toe in the door. So I appreciate that.
Okay, great. Seeing no further discussion, it's time to take a vote on this issue. Now, everybody in the room is eligible to vote because this is the meeting that we had about this. You came to a posted meeting. We're running it as a town meeting. You know, if you have a regular town meeting, everybody who's a registered voter that shows up is able to vote on the issue. So I'll just say it one more time, yeah?
But presumably not non-registered.
Oh, if you're here in the room, you can vote on this motion. This is in the stratosphere of non-binding, because we're just a Green New Deal for Vermont multi-stakeholder group working with the MIT Presidency Institute, and we're going to take what you vote on and we're going to present it to our federal and our state representatives, to be sure. But in terms of what you represent and whether your vote will be counted against you in some strange way, don't worry. So, to repeat the motion again, the motion was to endorse, to get this Vermont State Legislature to endorse the federal resolution for a Green New Deal, with the caveat that it is only a starting point and is not transformational enough, and to encourage the Vermont legislature to develop a Green New Deal for Vermont. Does that adequately reflect the motion as seconded by the Middlebury students?
Can we just add some language that we really want to center the issues of justice and equity as the main?
Okay, to center the issues of justice and equity that are part of this Green New Deal. I think that's one thing, at least I can comment on, that I didn't hear in the more mainstream Green New Deal resolution you were describing. Mr. Tracy, who's here from Senator Leahy's office, talked about another Green New Deal resolution that's going to A, recognize that climate change is real, about time, and B, recognize that it's time to do something about it. But if that resolution could include the same emphasis on justice and social equity and economic transformation as this legislation does, that I think would be more amenable to the group here from what I've been hearing today. So, with that, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, please raise your hands.
Oh, can't we say aye?
Aye. You can say aye too, but I wanted to.
I think to say it together would be wonderful.
And say aye. Aye. All right, all those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And we will be passing this along. Now, are there other, is there lot of talk about what the Vermont Green New Deal should look like. Yes, Emily.
Before we get into that, we were wondering if it would be possible for, as a group, to motion, or I don't really know how the town meeting structure works, but to motion to have, to ask Senator Leahy to co-sponsor the federal Green New Deal.
The only thing I'd offer on that is I think when he described where Senator Leahy was now, the fact that it's past closure, it means that it's
He can no longer co-sponsor it?
correct.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Easy vote. McConnell has vote closure, which means the debate will start next week as to whether, a week after they get back. Next week's a work period. They're on recess the 17th of the month. As to whether it's amendable or can have additional co-sponsors, I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, so it might be possible.
Oh.
So maybe.
But I will tell you though, I mean, that's okay for me to,
Yes?
I don't want to monopolize the meeting. Senator Leahy's going to continue to work on legislation, bills that will make a difference, like he's done the appropriations bill. And just because he's not a co-sponsor of a resolution does not mean that he is not supportive of those goals, because he is and has been for a long time. And will continue to work on legislation that actually has an impact. I went through the FY 2019 appropriations bill yesterday with the highlights that were passed. It deals with social and economic justice, about environmental justice, about public transportation that benefits individuals, that has communities involved in the process. Chapter and verse. Here's an advocate of the Second Chance Act, violence against women. Legal service corporations, that provides over 1.8 million people with legal services. So the nuts and bolts of what is being strived for in the Green New Deal, Pat Leahy has been working on and will continue to work on legislation.
Thank you. Henry, and then in the back.
As a happy medium to your request, I think that a request to Leahy's office that you publicly endorse the Green New Deal as the legislation that has the context in wildfire at the grassroots. I think that would be a strong second. So I think that.
Is that a motion?
Okay, so let's see if we can put it in the form of a motion in a
Yeah,
second.
is that a motion? Yeah.
It sounded to me like Emily was going to ask that a motion be made to ask Senator Leahy to endorse the Green New Deal resolution that's before the
Just
Senate.
say it one more time. Okay.
So Emily moved
If I'm not mistaken.
that this group, which is, again, a multi-stakeholder group drawn from around Vermont, people interested in looking at what a Green New Deal might look like for the state, ask Senator Leahy to endorse the Green New Deal resolution. And I understand Henry seconded that motion. If I can interpret their interventions in the spirit of what a town meeting would look like. So we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on this? Well, that would be an amendment. Alec has added or co-sponsor if possible the resolution.
That's a friendly amendment? Is that acceptable to the motion and second?
Okay, is there further discussion
On this,
Yes, Lee?
We just wanted to add that we brought a whole bunch of letters about this from the people who are on strike back in Middlebury, saying that they would really like to see this action from the senator. So, yeah, just,
So-
we brought those.
Olivia, would you like to present those to the senator's staff? Thank you.
Good job.
Somebody get a picture. Emily. Giving the senator the letters from the students on strike in Middlebury. Thank you. Other discussion? Now, I know today hundreds of thousands of students from over 70 countries around the world are on strike for climate change. And the people we have here are a representative sample, like would be appropriate in a multi-stakeholder group. We're trying to make this group as representative of the face of Vermont as possible, so we're encouraging all of you to join us if you like, and you'll be notified about our other meetings. But that's all we are, too, is a stakeholder group. Other discussion on the motion to ask Senator Leahy to endorse the Green New Deal or co-sponsor the resolution if possible. Seeing none, Could I have a show of hands? All those in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? None opposed, the motion passes, and we will make sure that Senator Leahy's staff knows that that's what this group decided to do. Yes, John?
Just if I could, the public, the senator has made publicly aware that he endorses the concept beyond the Green New Deal, and will continue to work on those areas that it was reflected. So thank you for that.
Okay, great. Other business to come before the meeting? All right, well, I would suggest that we set up a subcommittee of the whole to work on the Vermont resolution, which we've been told has to be a maximum of 2 pages after our lunch break. And if you're interested in being part of that group, let me know during the lunch break. Are there other, and what we've heard so far, to summarize the spirit of the meeting this morning, is that the Vermont resolution needs to emphasize the transformational nature of the Green New Deal, especially as it pertains to justice and economic equity, that it needs to address farmers and agricultural practices in Vermont, because that is one of our hopeful areas where we can possibly start to sequester more carbon than we have in the past, using a lot of the same farms and farmers as we have now. And we heard from the senator's staff that there is work being done already to try and get farmers paid for ecosystem services like carbon sequestration and water quality improvements. Another thing it needed to include was emphasis on public transit in a rural state, using lower impact forms of transportation, because the transportation impacts that we have in Vermont are among the highest of our carbon impact. So with that, yes? And banking. And banking. I'm going to be on the committee, so be sure that there will be something in there about money and banking.
Well, when I think about what we would need in a Green New Deal for Vermont, or what we would need for climate action, I'm thinking first about we have to reduce our emissions, but we have to do it in a way that is not only protects but elevates low-income and rural Vermonters. And the Resources for the Future report that came out a couple weeks ago mentioned that we'll probably need a combination of carbon pricing and non-pricing policies. And I just wanted to highlight the rebate programs that were in the Essex plan, where the general rebate balance is returning the revenue to all Vermonters, while the low-income and rural assistance make sure that the Vermonters that would be impacted the most are supported and helped with energy transition. And I would just ask that when we're thinking about the Green New Deal for Vermont, we're thinking about how to be equitable and use any revenue from any carbon pricing programs that we might have in an equitable manner, protecting low and rural Vermonters, and how we can hope that the federal Green New Deal will model itself after that as well.
Great, thank you. So she was talking a lot about how the energy transition is particularly difficult for the frontline and vulnerable communities mentioned in the legislation, and how we need to make sure that the revenue models we develop and the policies we develop put those interests first and foremost, so that we help them make the transition and help fund the needed services. Is that summarized?
That's summarized.
Okay, thank you. Again, so if you're interested in helping us draft the 2-pager for the Vermont legislature, please let me know, and we will do that as a topic in the open space session that goes from 1 to 3. Is there other business to come before the committee and before this group? Yes, Lee?
I was wondering if we could discuss how we all feel about the Vermont Equity and Infrastructure Act as introduced by Representative Gonzalez. I was talking to Hope, who's one of the leaders of the Montpelier Youth Strike today, and she was saying that she and others have been conceiving of that as sort of a Green Mountain New Deal. And so I think she was, well, I can't speak for her obviously, but she was sort of wondering where this group stood on that, and how it related to our maybe broader and hopefully even more transformational vision of a Vermont Green New Deal.
Great. So the question is, do we have a stand on Vermont's Equity and Infrastructure Act? And if so, what can we do to help move it along? I know for my part, I don't know the language of the act. I would like for us to do something similar as we did today, where we took the language of the actual legislation and look at it, but that can certainly be a topic this afternoon. I'm sure by then we can get the language of the act up, and then at our next meeting, we could vote to endorse that.
There's a one-page that is available online from Diana Gonzalez to a new student. It's got highlights and whatnot. So
Great. I would just put that on our agenda for the next meeting. How about
Maybe
that?
she could read that to us.
Sure.
Paper copy. It's very, all of this,
I mean, later when we're going to talk about it.
yeah, exactly, because it's got, they've got highlights on weatherizations and incentives.
Okay. Yes, Henry.
I just have a quick announcement and request. Students are meeting at U32 at 12:30 today. The request is for most of these marches that it's only for youth, so if you identify as youth, maybe 25 or under, you're welcome to come to U32 at 12:30, or of course at MHS at 2. But if folks wanted to post right now on their Facebook pages or other social media, get to U32 at 12:30, that's kind of a more, it's an awesome optic, and there's kids from several schools getting together there to march down here in the rain and could use some support. Yeah. Also, when we're talking about justice, I think justice implies that we're talking about supporting frontline communities and on their own terms. And the framework coming from those communities, as represented by the Climate Justice Alliance, which is the premier and largest people of color-led and indigenous alliance world-round, as well as the Grassroots Global Justice and the Indigenous Environmental Network, endorsed the Just Transition Framework, which is very well developed, and I feel that that explicit language, or at least reference, would be well suited to this conversation and formally inserted into any proposals that we're, and the way that we're discussing this moving forward.
Okay, great. Did you get us the language by this afternoon?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Is there other business to come before the committee?
Yeah, Emily.
I'd just like to make an announcement that as part of the global climate strike happening today, Middleburg College is striking at noon, and you can watch the live stream on our Facebook page if you're keen on doing that.
Yes, there's a number of different student actions all over the state today in honor of Greta Thunberg's efforts to go on strike for climate change. And yesterday, she was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. So that's really a great moment for all of what we're all working on doing. Is there other business to come before the committee? Seeing none, I would accept a motion to adjourn the meeting until 1 o'clock when we'll come back for open space.
So moved.
Second. Okay, so Michael moved and this was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for coming.
From Bristol.
Chris Wood from London.
Yes.
Stuart Love from Bedford Center.
I'm Mariah P. from Essex. I'm Monkey from Essex.
I'm Luke Dixon from Town High School.
I'm Midge Mastanoff from Pigeon.
I'm going to, I'll pass, in this pass it on.
Gerald, Bethel.
Loretta from Randolph.
Lisa from Bethel.
Carl and Aaron from East Montpelier.
Alex, you want to go?
Yes, hi, Alec from Middlebury.
Hi, Emily from Middleburg.
Olivia from Middlebury.
Leahy from Middlebury.
All right.
Cameron P. from Essex.
My name is Gwendolyn Halston. I'm from Cabot. And Vermonters for a New Economy, and East of Vermont.
Wendy Weber from Colorado, representing the Societal Transformation Lab.
Yes, again, just briefly, for those of you who weren't here this morning, the group that we've convened, this group, the Green New Deal for Vermont, is part of MIT's Presidency Institute's Societal Transformation Lab. They're running similar groups. Sorry?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. The Green New Deal for Vermont group is part of a large international effort by the MIT Presidency Institute called the Societal Transformation Lab. So right now, 300 similar teams all over the world are trying to consider the deep cultural, social, and economic changes required to deal with the climate crisis. That's the purpose of the lab, because the most recent IPCC report, the International Panel on Climate Change, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, said that nothing less than social and economic transformation is required very quickly for us to start to address the massive human and environmental crisis that we're facing. And so the MIT effort is part of that. The student climate strike is part of that. The Sunrise Movement is part of that. All of these efforts are coming together to try and put more pressure on the business as usual politicians here in the State House. Right before this meeting, I was able to talk to my senator, Anthony Cohen, and he expressed the same frustration we heard this morning. There are 60 climate bills in front of this House, and not a single one of them is making crossover to their own. Yeah, I mean, it's bad. It's bad.
Bad news.
So we're here to raise the level of opposition to that business as usual approach. We're here to magnify the voices of the youth that came here today.
And to support these important initiatives.
And to support all of these important initiatives. So what we did this morning was we had a town meeting forum of meetings where the students from Middlebury introduced a piece of legislation to us as a group to endorse the federal resolution for a Green New Deal. If you don't have a copy of this, there should still be more copies over on the table. We read the federal resolution, and we all voted to ask the Vermont legislature to pass a resolution endorsing it, but with important caveats. The second part of that resolution was how to make it specifically for Vermont. And I asked for volunteers at the end of that meeting for people who would like to discuss that. What does the Vermont resolution look like? Because Representative Brian Sheena, who was with us this morning, said, Vermont resolutions don't have 14 pages. They won't go anywhere. They need to be 2 pages long. And so we need to think about what those 2 pages contain. And that would be one of the topics that we can discuss this afternoon. This afternoon we had structured as an open space session. Now open space means that the participants in the meeting help set the agenda. So I know that 2 topics that I've heard that people would like to discuss are the Vermont version of the resolution, a 2-pager. There's also some interest in discussing a piece of legislation that is one of those stalled pieces of legislation, H477, which is an infrastructure act. I don't know whether it's equity and infrastructure, but anyway, it's an act to create infrastructure. We do have a few copies of that bill with more on their way. So those are the 2 potential discussion topics that we have.
And the just transition to office and language.
All right. Henry said something about getting us the language of the just transition free. So those are 3 topics. What does the just transition, who put that out there?
This is Climate Justice Alliance, but I don't know who did the
Okay.
original.
So the Climate Justice Alliance has a framework that they are asking people to consider with this type of legislation. And that's one potential topic. The 2-pager we need to draft for Vermont and this other bill. Now, just to have a quick show of hands to get a sense of the meeting, who is interested in talking about the, and you can raise your hands to all 3. You don't have to pick one, okay? I'm interested. Who's interested in talking about the Vermont resolution?
I want to propose something else. I'm
Okay.
appalled. Here we are on this auspicious day, which is crossover day. 60 bills are laying there and none of them made it. I think we ought to go march around up there and just protest. I'm serious. How could that be?
I know, it's ridiculous.
It means they're just not taking this seriously. So we're going to sit here and make yet another resolution that's not going to cross over?
Well, resolutions don't have to cross over.
Well,
So that
we're
is
not
one
going
good
to
thing.
even read
So,
maybe?
yeah, so they could conceivably pass a resolution without it having to go through crossover. I agree with you. That's why we opened our meeting to the students. And yet,
Maybe when the students get here, we could go up there and
exactly,
march around.
exactly, right. So at 2 o'clock or so, the students are marching from Montpelier High School to the State House. And so I was going to propose that whatever discussion we have, we'll stop at 2. And we'll go outside and we'll see what the students are doing and support their efforts today. And maybe they don't. Maybe they'll lead us around the State House corridors to protest. This thing, you guys, your representative is the head of natural resources, is she not? Amy Sheldon.
We were just talking about her and our other senator. We were just talking to her in the cafeteria, and she said she gets out of committee at 3. And if we have more language of what we would like this Vermont resolution in support of federal action, but also action here, to look like that she would talk us at 3, and she'd be very much willing to take action on that. And then Representative Gina also said that he would, earlier, that he would be willing to work with her. We were just talking with our.
Mari Cordes, she's
Yeah.
So we already have 3 co-sponsors of the Vermont resolution.
Ray said he would.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Senator Ray, who's also high on the resources. We were just talking in the hallway. He's very supportive. Great.
Good work. Helps to have meetings at the state. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that when we walked out for the lunch break, that there were a lot of other schools or individuals with their children that were arriving and standing on the steps for a short period of time, and they weren't aware of this event. So I gave my name tag to one of the teachers that was marching back with his schools. They had to go back to school. They were there for the noon hour. But you might be hearing from some
We'd love to.
people.
Yeah, we invited them to come through the organizers of the different schools, but we don't really know.
It's hard.
Right. It's hard to get through to people in
So that might be,
For
I
good
mean,
reason.
hopefully part of the strategic way of how we can mobilize individuals within communities beyond the institutions, because I gotta say, I'm on my school board, and I couldn't budge any, I brought all this information to the board, the administrators, and was devastated to not even get an acknowledgement.
Seriously?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in the White River Unified District, Royalton and Bethel. It's a newly merged school. I'm going to bring it up at the board meeting next week, but I couldn't even, try to get my kids to skip school today, and they were more concerned about missing a class. And, it's like the discussions aren't happening. If it was, they would have been encouraged to come here or to do an activity after school. And I'm not sure. It's possible they did something and I just don't know about it, but I'm going to find out next week.
Maybe you could tell your board that the citizens at this town meeting were appalled at their lack of participation.
I will, and I'm on the board and I'm going to say I am appalled, so I'm devastated.
Well, there has been talk about April town meetings, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because that would address this question of how do we get more people involved.
Yeah, so Sunrise overall has been working on setting up town halls all across the country for people to come sort of like we did this morning and talk about concepts of Green New Deal, concepts of just transition framework, what we would like this to look like locally and nationally. So in April, those town halls are going to be happening all across the country. There's also going to be sort of this road tour where people who have been working on Green New Deal are going to go all around the country and talk about it in like big training meetings. There aren't any of those in Vermont, so I think the nearest one would be Boston. But we were going to think about setting up with like our small Sunrise group, town hall likely in Middlebury on April 19th. And we'd like to invite anyone who wants to come to that. And then also we had talked about that would just be a start of more conversations because sometimes when things are very geographically isolated, not everyone might want to come to Middlebury. So having some more town halls across Vermont this summer, if that's something that would be interesting to people, But yeah, we were thinking of trying to get as many people as possible, and if it sounds good, we can book a space at our college, but if people would rather have it somewhere else, we can work that out. But yeah, lots of excitement for big town hall meetings and things.
It seems to me that one piece of work is connecting.
We need to have a microphone, Chris. Passing the microphone. That one doesn't work. The one's the travel.
It seems to me that connecting kids, so I know several school walkouts that are happening. It's got nothing to do with coming to Montpelier. It's they're walking, 200 Woodstock high school students that are walking out, marching to the green and doing a teach-in on the green. That kind of thing is happening now. So connecting, those lead, what I will call the lead kids, in the different schools, so that kind of connection can happen local, so Middlebury can happen with stuff, and,
Brattleboro, Craftsbury.
I also just to, remember that with the S2 lab, in the next 2 or 3 months, we've got more meetings. If we begin to craft something here for Vermont's version, we'll be taking your voices further, or hopefully be part of it too. But we're not trying to just get it done today.
Right. All right, so,
Did you have a comment you wanted to make? Okay, yeah.
My name is Jael, I work at 350
I try. One in the comments. Just pass it around.
My name is Jael, I work for 350 Vermont. And we are having a climate walk from Middlebury to Montpelier, April 5th through the 9th. And we're inviting, we definitely want more youth involved. But anyone is welcome. We will be having a gathering ceremony in Crags Park. That's where the pipeline goes through. And then also here on the 9th in Montpelier. But I just wanted to comment because my daughter goes to U32. She's in 8th grade, and we couldn't find any information on where to go, or who to contact, or was it happening, was it not happening. And as an organizer, I was very frustrated with the whole process. So I want to offer my expertise in whatever, I wanted to be youth-led, but, big pointers or tips or anything like that.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know for my part, we issued a press release about it that was not covered by the Vermont Press. We released it earlier this week saying that students were welcome to join us here. I also sent emails to all the organizers that I knew who were organizing these things. But God bless them, they wanted it to be youth-led. And so even when I publicized the fact that the marches were happening, it was like, we want it to be youth, we don't want adults in the march, which is fine. But I did my best, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Try and let them know and let them know to come here if they wanted to. We changed our agenda. We're happy to do that. So, did you have something you wanted to say? You got to say it.
It's off. You just push the button.
How I think we can all help each other and make more people wanna help us. I think that we should all work together and hold up our signs, not screaming help us, or we're just raising up our signs because we want to help our community be a better place, and we want to help each other.
Great idea.
Thank you.
We should all walk together and hold up our signs. Let our voices be heard. And we need your voices heard because you guys are going to be facing the climate crisis much more than we are. Did you have something you want to say?
No, we're just the keeper of the stick.
Okay. So speaking of the stick, it's 1:30. What I would propose as the moderator is that, again, let's just have a quick show of hands. The first topic was people who want to work on the 2-pager for Vermont. Okay? People who want to look at the Infrastructure Act. Okay?
Don't know what it is.
I know we have page 477, I haven't read it yet, but it was one of the things that were proposed. And then there was a third topic. Oh, the just transition. Anybody interested in that? The just transition framework, which has been put out by the Climate Alliance. There are principles and practices. I haven't seen it either. That we can discuss. Okay, that was not conclusive. So,
What's the first one again?
the first one was working on the 2-page resolution that Vermont legislators need.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hands again on that. Okay. So I'm going to propose that the people who are interested in working on that gather on this side of this team. Now, how about the just transition principles? Do we have people that are interested in working on that? Okay. Just transition will be at this end of the table, and since we don't yet have enough copies of the Infrastructure Act, it's called the Green Mountain Deal, I gather. Let's wait till they come. If we get enough copies, then we'll take that. But right now, if you want to look at this and talk about the just transition, be on this side of this table, and if you want to work on the 2-page resolution to go to the Vermont legislature, sit on this side of this table. We will do that for approximately half an hour, which will bring us to 2 o'clock.
I think the idea was this was not separate, but we could use some of the language that's already been crafted for our 2-page resolution.
Okay. So it's all one. It's all one page. All right. So let's just all work on the resolution. If that's the intent. But maybe take just a minute. You know, this morning we all read 14-page resolutions so that everybody knew what was in it. It helps to read the stuff that we're looking at to make sure you know what we're talking about. So if you want to just take a couple minutes to look through this, there are more copies.
Maybe if we started with analysis, framework, and strategy, we could get through it more quickly without leaving it.
It's page 3. This is just a diagram. You can just look at the diagram.
So we started with a, who said that? I mean, that's the list.
Page 3. Page 3 has diagrams.
Yeah, no, before that, I think, was it,
She was talking about analysis, framework, and strategy, which is on page 3.
Oh, I see.
So there's their words and their diagrams.
Yes, sorry.